This is my video for the Rio Black Rifle match held September 4th, 2021. This stage requires that the shooter engage 3 static plates at about 50 yards from the start box. They can then move to Area A and support off the top of the concrete house to engage the hanging steel rack at about 90 yards. Move down into Area B, engage all the paper targets, then move up the stairs and engage 2 final static steel targets at about 200 yards. This is my first match using the Vortex Spitfire 5-power optic with Venom red dot stacked on top of it. I used the stacked red dot on those 3 targets, and I'm also using the stacked red dot here, although on this array it wasn't intentional, it's just where my face fell as I got into position. Because the red dot is higher, I have to learn the holdovers as they're a bit different than using a red dot at a regular height. Down here, there's only 5 paper targets, so it's easy to memorize where each of them are at. I am still using the stacked red dot on these targets. The round count is low enough that I don't bother reloading on this stage. With only 2 targets left, I drop prone and get the hits 1 for 1. This month's match allowed people to practice with their Red October Cold War match rifles, so there were only 4 people in Stealth Division, so I'm going to be showing overall results for this event. I am 16th out of 70 shooters on this stage with 72.75% of the winner's score. On this stage, there are 7 paper targets in one bay. The shooter has to then transition to the second bay, engage 2 paper targets, then a final steel target at about 300 yards. Because I'm going to be exiting out the right side of the bay, I engage the 2 targets on the left side first. From the middle, I'm going to engage 3 paper targets, and then from around the corner here, I'm going to engage 2. I hand the rifle off to my right hand to keep it within the 180 while transitioning to the next bay. I deploy my bipod. I don't bother reloading because there's only 3 targets left. The truck is still bouncing as I get into position here, so I do have to take a makeup shot to hit that 300-yard target. I am 17th out of 70 shooters on this stage with 79.50% of the winner's score. On this stage, we have the regular 6 hanging plates at about 90 yards. We have the diamond at just under 200, the next silhouette at just over 200, and then a final silhouette at 300. The stage just requires that the shooter make contact with the prop as they engage these targets. You don't have to lie on top of it. So being left-handed, it's easier for me to just kneel off the right side of it. For almost all of the targets except for the final target at 300 yards, I'll have to do a hard lean for that one. Because I'm using this long carbon fiber free float tube from KE Arms, I can rest on the magazine and the front of the handguard and get a pretty solid position here. I am testing the first article carbon fiber free float tube that KE Arms produced for the What Would Stoner Do rifles. It will not be available for sale separately until all WWSD 2020 orders are filled. Pushing my weight into these barrels, this is a very solid position, and this segment of the stage goes even better than the first portion. I am 3rd out of 70 shooters with 89.59% of the winner's score. No diagram for this one because the stage description I had from ahead of the match is different than what was actually presented. There are 11 paper targets the shooter must engage as they advance through the course, and from the final position there are 2 steel targets at about 200 yards that they have to hit. I am using the stacked Venom red dot for all these close range engagements. The more I use it, the more natural it starts to feel. Because there are only 2 targets left, I opt not to reload as I move into position. I am 17th out of 70 shooters with 72.13% of the winner's score. The shooter must hit 2 steel targets from the first position at about 200 yards, then move to Area B and engage 5 paper targets, then move to the final position, Area C, and hit the same 2 steel targets again. With a bipod upper body on the spool, with the bipod forward on the spool is the most supportive position to use. If you're not using a bipod, you'll probably want to kneel behind the spool and support off of it with the forend contacting it. Paper engagement here is as simple as it gets. Shoot 3, pivot, shoot 1, take a big step forward, shoot the last one. Getting onto the prop from the back and sliding into prone is much faster than trying to mount the prop from the side. I am 4th out of 70 shooters with 85.60% of the winner's score. In the end, I am first out of 4 in Stealth Division and 7th out of 70 shooters overall with 87.94% of the winner's score. Thank you for watching. Come back again for more match and multi-gun competition content.